Imagine this. You sit down to do something you have been avoiding all day. Maybe it's studying for an exam, answering emails, cleaning your apartment, or finally starting that complicated report. You open the document, you read the first sentence, and suddenly your eyes feel heavy. You yawn. Your body seems to lose all its energy. You think, maybe I should rest for a few minutes before I begin. But then you pick up your phone. One notification becomes a video. One video becomes 10. And somehow you are completely awake again. So, what just happened? Were you genuinely tired? Or did your brain create that feeling because it did not want to do the task? The answer is more complicated and much more interesting than simple laziness, because the strange sleepiness you feel may actually be part of a negotiation happening inside your brain. Of course, there is one obvious explanation. You may simply need a sleep. But genuine sleep pressure does not normally appear only when you open one particular document and disappear the moment you close it. A phone can temporarily hide real tiredness because it's highly stimulating. So suddenly feeling awake while scrolling proves very little. But imagine your energy also returns when you stand up, prepare food, take a short walk, or talk to someone, and then disappears again when you return to the same task. Your body did not produce a new supply of energy in 2 minutes. Something changed in your brain's willingness to use it. So perhaps the real question is not, where did my energy go? It is, why did this particular task suddenly make that energy feel unavailable? To understand that, we need to look at a calculation your brain is making all the time. Your brain does not give every activity the same priority. It's constantly evaluating questions like, how difficult will this be? How long will it take? What reward will I receive? Could I be doing something better instead? Imagine that you have to organize hundreds of files. The task demands attention, but the reward is distant and abstract. Finishing it may help you tomorrow, but right now it offers almost no excitement. Your phone offers the opposite. Every sweep may reveal something funny, surprising, beautiful, or socially important. The reward is immediate and unpredictable. Compared with that, the folder of documents has almost no chance. This does not mean that your brain has literally run out of fuel. A more useful explanation is that mental effort can feel expensive when the expected reward is too small. The same amount of work feels heavier when you see no immediate reason to do it. That is why 10 minutes of unwanted administration can feel more exhausting than an hour spent learning something you love. The clock measures time, but your brain measures value. We often think of boredom as an empty state, as if nothing is happening inside the brain. But boredom may serve a purpose. It tells you that your intention is trapped in an activity that does not feel meaningful or stimulating enough. In other words, boredom may be your brain saying, there must be a better use of our time than this. That signal creates an urge to search for something else. Sometimes that means daydreaming. Sometimes it means checking the time every 30 seconds. And today it usually means reaching for a phone. But if you force yourself to stay with the boring task, your level of alertness may fall. Your movement slows down. Your attention begins to drift. You yawn, and the experience starts to resemble sleepiness. The important word here is resemble. Boredom and low alertness can make you feel sleepy without proving that your body urgently needs sleep. In fact, boredom does not always produce low energy. For some people, it produces restlessness. They tap their feet, change positions, open new tabs, or look for a reason to leave. Sleepiness and restlessness may appear opposite, but both can be attempts to escape an activity that is failing to hold your attention. But boredom is only half of the story. Sometimes we feel tired before we have even started. You open an important email, see the subject line, and immediately want to close it. You look at a blank page and feel an overwhelming desire to lie down. In these cases, the task may not be boring. It may be emotionally uncomfortable. Perhaps you are afraid of failing. Perhaps the task is unclear. Perhaps you expect criticism, or perhaps completing it would force you to make a difficult decision. Avoidance does not always feel like fear. Sometimes it feels like fatigue. I'm too tired to start. Is much more comfortable than saying, I'm afraid that I will not do this well. Sleepiness can therefore become an escape route. If you postpone the task because you are exhausted, you receive immediate relief, and that relief teaches your brain something. An unpleasant task appears, fatigue appears, you escape, you feel better. Repeat this often enough, and the reaction can become almost automatic. Eventually, simply thinking about the task may make your body feel heavy, not because you are pretending. The feeling can be completely real, but its cause may be emotional rather than physical. Here is an experiment. Choose one task that regularly makes you feel tired, but instead of writing work on the project on your list, reduce it to one action that takes less than 5 minutes. Do not say clean the apartment. Say put the clothes on the chair into one basket. Do not say study biology. Say open page 42 and read the first paragraph. Do not say write the presentation. Say create the file and type a temporary title. Then set a timer for 5 minutes. You are allowed to stop when it rings. Why can this work? Because vague tasks feel unlimited. Your brain cannot clearly estimate their difficulty, duration, or probability of success. But a tiny specific action reduces uncertainty. It also brings the first reward closer, completion. Once you begin, the task is no longer a threatening possibility. It becomes a series of visible actions. You may still dislike it, but the wall between doing nothing and doing something has been broken. And very often, starting creates more alertness than waiting to feel ready. Now try this with the task you are currently avoiding, but do not write the entire task in the comments. Write only its smallest possible first action, not study for my exam, but open the book to page 42, not clean the apartment, but put 5 clothes into the basket, not finish my presentation, but create the file and write a temporary title. Anyone reading the comments should see a collection of strangely small actions without knowing the enormous task behind them. And once you have written yours, notice what happens. Does it still make you feel sleepy, or did shrinking the task change the feeling before you even began? Researchers studying mental fatigue have found something revealing. People can report feeling increasingly fatigued during long tasks, while still performing better when the activity feels more motivating. In experiments involving rewards or more interesting versions of a task, participants are often willing to invest more mental effort and become less distracted. This suggests an important distinction. Feeling fatigued and being incapable of continuing are not always the same thing. Sometimes fatigue is an empty battery indicator. It is closer to a price. Your brain is asking, is this task worth the effort it requires? Raise the perceived value, reduce the uncertainty, or make progress visible, and the price may suddenly be lower. This is also why artificial reward can help. You might work for 20 minutes and then make coffee. Turn a repetitive task into a race against a timer. Listen to music while cleaning. Track each complicated section, or work beside another person. These techniques do not create energy from nothing. They change the brain's calculation. The task now contains progress, stimulation, social pressure, or an immediate reward. Task-related fatigue is common, but persistence, daytime sleepiness should not be dismissed as laziness or avoidance. If you regularly struggle to stay awake during conversations, meals, driving, enjoyable activities, or other parts of the day, the problem may be physical. Insufficient sleep is one possibility, but sleep disorders, stress, depression, certain medication, and medical condition can also contribute. And if you feel drowsy while drawing, do not try to defeat it with motivation. Stop somewhere safe. No productivity technique can replace sleep when your brain genuinely needs it. So why do we become sleepy when we have to do something we dislike? Sometimes we genuinely need sleep, but sometimes boredom lures our alertness. Sometimes the reward feels too distant to justify the effort, and sometimes the task contains an emotion we would rather avoid. The surprising part is that your brain may not be saying, I have no energy. It may be saying, I do not want to spend my energy here. That does not make the tiredness imaginary. The sensation is real, but it may be less like an empty battery and more like your brain refusing to approve the expense. That is why the right response is not always to force yourself harder. First, identify the message. Do you need sleep? Is the task unrewarding? Is it too vague? Or is there something about it that you are afraid to face? Then make the first action almost ridiculously small. If you wrote yours in the comments, do not wait until you feel motivated. Do that one action now, before your brain finds another reason to feel tired. The next video will still be here when you return. If you found my video interesting, please like it and subscribe to my channel.